Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order with, if we can all rise for a moment of silence and a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I want to welcome everybody in the audience tonight. If you can keep it down, I'd really appreciate it so we can work. All righty. We're going to start off with board member comments, if there are any.
Oh, I'd just like to make one quick one.
Okay.
I'd like to congratulate the basketball team on a wonderful season.
Mm-hmm.
And also to Nick Smith for being Player of the Year.
Yes.
I think that's is that a
was great.
first for us?
At least for the last 25 years it is.
Yeah.
I would think so.
So congratulations. Good for him, and he's only a junior
Yeah.
this year.
I think it said since the 80s.
Yeah,
1980s
might even be
something.
30 years, yeah.
Oh, good. I was very impressed with that. That's all.
Maybe since John Robick. It's a long time.
Oh, my God. John
Long time.
Robick.
Yep. Name from the past. You're probably too young to remember.
I remember him.
All right, any public comments on the agenda items? Thank you. So we could move on to education, and Mrs. Bender is not here. So,
Where'd she
well,
go?
she's coming, here she comes. You're on, Mrs.
Mrs.
Bender.
Bender, you're up.
You're on. Yes, unless you want someone else to take education. Okay. Is your machine up? Okay.
Light's not up, but it's all set to go. I'm sorry.
That's all right, take your time.
I got sick from dinner.
Food or
The food.
Or the entertainment.
Or the entertainment. Take care of these Italians here. Okay, I'm sorry. Again, please accept my apology.
All yours.
All right, education. Number one, the change to the 2016-2017 academic calendar. Has everyone read that, and is there a problem?
I'm just going to go over this real quick. What we decided to do was move the parent conferences into February from March. We received a lot of feedback from elementary principals, elementary teachers that felt it more effective if we could make it a little bit earlier in the year. So we did. Thought President's Day would be a good time to put it, so that's the change. You're also going to see there's some language in personnel, right, Val? Is that where the MOUs are?
Yes.
That also covers this because it was a little bit of a change with the way the contract language is set up. So there's an MOU that is following this calendar change, but that's the reason for the change. All other days are exactly the same on there. We just chose to move our parent conference and in-service day to President's Day for 2017, as opposed to the day, I believe it was March 20th or 27th.
Yeah, I saw that in
Yeah.
there.
The other thing that that's going to do for us is we always have kindergarten registration on that parent conference day, and it's something that we talked about with redistricting, that we were looking for a way to get that parents conference day, or the kindergarten registration moved up to a little bit of an earlier date, and that will also allow us to do that. So that will primarily be the first day for kindergarten registration for the 17-18 school year. Okay, so that's the calendar change.
Thank you. Number two, the grant approval. It's requested that the board approve the Remake Learning Days grant in the amount of $500,000 for the middle school and $300,000 for the high school to be used during Remake Learning Days.
You're missing a decimal point there. It's $500 and $300. Oh, we were getting excited there for a second, Arlene.
I was getting all
Sorry.
Do you mean that's not a comma?
Nope, that's a decimal.
Okay, again, please forgive me. The high school to be used during the Remake Learning Days, May 9th through 15th. Does anyone have any questions concerning this? Number three are articulation agreements. Yeah, they're coming up. This is something that we do every year. This year, we have the college and high school articulation agreements, CCAC for welding, LaRoche for CHS accounting, Seton Hill for CHS psychology and nutrition, Carlo for CH pottery, anatomy, physiology 1 and 2, Pitt for CHS argumentation, chemistry, business calculus, Probability and Statistics, French 1 and 2, Latin 1, Spanish 1, and CHS German 1 and 2. And then for Point Park College, for Media and Communications. Any questions concerning these? These are wonderful. I just think it's great.
Nice that we're learning how to articulate.
Yes. All right, I move that items 1 through 3 under education be added to the legislative meeting agenda for approval.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Bender. We could move on to athletics and activities. Mr. Muha.
Yeah, we have one item under athletics and activities, that's reimbursement for North Hills Club softball, which is attached. It's in the amount of $861.24. If there's any questions on that? Okay, if not, then I move that item 1 under athletics and activities be added to the legislative meeting agenda for approval.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Muha. We can now move on to Beatty. Is there anything, Mr. Nudi, that you want to talk about?
Yes, I have, like to announce the Students of the Month for February and March from North Hills. Zane Curry was cited for Student of the Month for Advanced Computer Programming. Gregory Hughes for Agile Robotics. Automotive Collision Technology with Jordan Beam. And Jacqueline Kelper for Emergency Response Technology, and Peyton Kuhn for Emergency Response Technology, and HVAC Brian Cross, and Corey Harris. And that is 7 out of the 25 cited for that. That's over 25% from North Hills for February and March.
Is it?
Okay, I'd just like to add recognition, FCCLA State Leadership Conference competitors. That's Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America. It's silver medal, Jade Lane, Jamie Alexander, Chapter Service Project Display. Silver medal, Trevor Lazara, Culinary. Alyssa Buchel, Voting Delegate. And finally, winning gold medal, first place national team, and they'll be going to the national, which I think is in San Diego, for entrepreneurship. Alexis Randolph and Amanda Kalmbach. So congratulations to them, and good luck in the nationals.
Okay. Mrs. Bender?
Last week, I attended the National Technical Honor Society induction. We had 8 students from North Hills inducted. I have asked that we please recognize them. I also think that we have another great honor that was bestowed upon Dave Barkovich, and that is that this is the first year that someone was given an honorary National Technical Honor Society membership. And Dave has done so much for Beatty and for our students, and they recognized him
Great.
this year.
Thank you. Thank you.
And there's
One more?
one more announcement for Beatty. There will be a transition fair that's for students who are looking for potential employment on Thursday, April 14th, from 6 to 8 p.m. at Beatty Tech.
Thank you. Let's move on to personnel. Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. August. I move that items 1 through 4 under personnel be added to the legislative meeting agenda for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We can move on to policy. Mrs. Reed, looks like you got a few things going there.
Yes. Number 1, we have a second reading. It's the revisions to policy number 205, class size. This was discussed at the last meeting, and the only change in there is in regard to registering for kindergarten by that certain date. Other than that, it's still the same. Okay. Bear with me. Okay, the superintendent recommends, and I move that the board approve policy 232, no, I'm sorry, here, I'm up here too far. 205, be approved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on 205?
Oh, this is just 205?
Just
Yeah.
205? Yep.
Okay.
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 Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, you can, I guess,
Okay,
move on there.
the
to
next here, I'm going to try to group them.
Number
It's
3, yeah,
Policy
3.
232, Policy 302, which is employment of superintendent assistants, Policy 813, club sports, Policy 917, volunteers. Basically, the only changes on there is the one that, as far as clearances go, they're different for each set, and volunteers don't need, if you're a field trip volunteer, you don't need as many clearances. And that's basically the only changes there.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any questions?
Yes, I have one. Relative to the revision, the volunteers,
Are you talking about 917, are we?
I'm sorry, yeah, 917.
Okay.
It looks like, is it a memorandum of understanding that has to be signed?
Are you talking about the exemption form from
Yeah,
PDE?
the exception
Mhm,
form.
The exception form.
Okay, and how do people get this, or are they told about it? What in
That
essence?
will be, I'm hoping that will be posted as an attachment with policies. If not, Mrs. Hartle and I spoke about making the website under a link under parents a little bit more clear about if they wanted to be a various volunteer, because there seems to be levels of volunteers, a program volunteer, your assisted, and then field trip volunteers or just chaperones. And there's different levels of what kind of clearances you're going to need based upon your interaction with our students. So that's identified there, but if you've lived in the state for 10 years, then you will sign a sworn affidavit and you would not need the FBI aspect of that.
And it truly is self-explanatory when you
Yes.
read that whole thing.
I
But
hope so.
My concern was, I, as a parent, want to volunteer to take the kids, they're going to the Heinz Field for the
Mm-hmm.
Pirate thing. But I didn't sign that. How does that parent, is that parent aware that this has to be signed?
Those volunteers are going to be pretty much managed through the buildings. So
Okay.
that'll be a field trip that'll be managed by, let's just say, Ross Elementary.
Mm-hmm.
So the building principal, and since my example is elementary, Dr. Kane will manage those. So
Okay.
you'll be approached or asked to volunteer. You will have to submit your clearances. And if you have lived in the state for 10 years, that's where the exemption comes in. And that
Right.
exemption is the FBI exemption. You still
Right.
have to get your child abuse, and you still have to get your
Oh, I-
CA
Oh, okay.
state police one. That's
FBI.
just the
Okay.
FBI.
Okay.
Because
Then
the
I
affidavit
didn't
is that you've
understand
lived
it.
in the state for 10 years.
Right.
So that's how that process works.
Okay.
And all the teachers are aware.
Yeah.
And whenever they ask for volunteers for field trips,
Okay.
they usually go to the teacher first, and the teacher will tell them about, in regard to
I
clearances.
misread that then. I was under the impression that if you lived here for 10 years, you didn't have to get anything.
No.
No,
Okay.
it's just
Just
the
the FBI.
FBI.
All right, and then the second question I have is relative to the superintendent and assistant superintendent's employment. And the only thing that was changed here was the fact that instead of notification shall be given 150 days as per employee, now it's as per employee contract. All of you who have the contracts, it's in your
It's specifically
contract?
spelled out in our
It is.
contracts. That's
Okay.
the reason we made the change.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
Okay,
Thank you.
no more questions? I move the policy items 3 through 6 be added to the legislative meeting agenda for second reading and approval.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Reed. Community and Intergovernmental Relations, Mr. Yeomans?
Okay, we have one action item for tonight, and that's a resolution requesting release of Plan-Con reimbursements. And real quickly, we were all relieved when the news came that the budget impasse for 2015-16 had ended, and that the budget was passed, and we were going to receive our basic education and special education subsidies from the state. However, as many of you might have read, there was a veto of the fiscal code legislation to enact the budget that affects our PlanCon reimbursement. So in effect, the money that the state had promised to reimburse us and has been reimbursing us for our various construction projects over several years, that money is not going to be forthcoming unless there's additional legislation from the state or unless there's an override of the veto. So our intent with this resolution is to urge all parties from the legislature and the governor to do what's necessary to ensure that our district and all districts are provided the promised state funding. The impact to us for the current year, we had budgeted $1.25 billion for PlanCon reimbursements. And as everybody knows, that's a very significant impact to our budget. And if that money is not forthcoming, it's going to require us to deplete our fund balance to fund it, not only for this year. We obviously, if we're not getting it this year, it seems to be in jeopardy for the future as well, and that could have a serious impact on us. So I'm not going to read the whole resolution, but once it's passed, we're going to forward it to our legislators. I assume that our public information officer will push this out to the community and urge all community members to contact their state representatives and let them know that a promise made should be a promise kept, because if we do not get this money, there's going to be serious ramifications for the district.
Are we voting on this tonight?
Yes, we are.
Okay. thank you.
PSBA even sent out an action alert this afternoon.
Right.
With this as the specific example, I thought that was timely in the fact that we chose to make this an action item for tonight to get this moving. I sent a letter to all of our representatives, senators, and the governor, I think on March 11th. Another letter, did we send a letter or we turned it into this resolution?
I think we turned it.
We chose to turn it into this resolution that will go to our legislators, senators, and the governor. We're also going to share this with the school board presidents of the 9 northern area schools, the 8 other northern area schools. I meet with the superintendents tomorrow. I'm going to give them a copy of it and just get the word out that anybody that's facing this PlanCon issue, this could be detrimental to a lot of our school districts, and we're urging our legislators and senators to take the appropriate action. And let's get this thing moved forward appropriately.
I just want to impress upon the fact that this is a serious event to our budget. This is $1.25 million that we did not assume that there was even going to be a chance that we wouldn't get this. This was like a done deal, and it has been a done deal every year. So the $1.25 million is extremely serious. And David, do I understand correctly? It's not even guaranteed that we'll get it next time, at this point in time. Do I understand?
No, there isn't.
Okay. And so $1.25 million is a lot of money to us, and we're fortunate that we've got a fund balance to be able to absorb this, but that doesn't mean it's a balance that's going to be there forever. And that being said, I just want to impress upon the community that this is something that we really, really need to get done. And I'm just really upset with our legislatures, our entire state government to do something like this that would just short not only us but all school districts, so that really rely on this. So.
And not only that, it's
Please.
coming on top of the incredible PSERS
Yeah,
burden
exactly.
that the state has foisted onto us as well. So it's like a double whammy in that regard.
Exactly.
They just keep pushing the responsibility down to the school district level without really giving us
Any help.
the complete autonomy for how to spend funds as well, and providing many mandates for us, but then not funding them and forcing it onto the local property tax owner through their property taxes.
Exactly. Mr. Nudi?
Well, I was at the PSBA Advocacy Day on Monday, and every legislator I talked to is well aware of this problem, and they had hoped that the governor would approve the fiscal code. They go out and get a bond issue, I believe, for $2.5 billion and pay up all of the arrears on this, and I believe it's to pay off all of the PlanCons to date, and then also come up with a a program in the future of how they would have to handle the future plane cons, which is not been at all defined at this point.
Still talking, they all talk.
Well,
Okay.
I think there's enough interest on the part of all legislators, because I think every one of the legislators has a piece of action in this problem. And they're probably going to have to take do something to alleviate it. And the only possible way of alleviating this is a bond issue. They can't take it out of operating funds. It's just too big. So it'll have to be a bond issue.
And if this bond issue is passed, who pays for it?
Oh,
We
we
do.
do, we do.
Yeah, I know, that,
It's kicking the
it's
can
like,
down the road.
Comes full
Right.
circle.
a circle.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But we'll have our money, that's.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Yeoman?
So with that, I would ask that the board approve action item number 1, resolution 2016-1, requesting release of Plan Con reimbursements.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Yeoman. Is there anything else that you needed to add?
I don't think so.
Great, thank you. Finance, we'll give this to Mr. Nudi.
There are 6 items on the finance agenda for approval next week. First, the general fund bills, construction fund bills, capital project bills, budget transfers, payroll for the month of March, and treasurer report for June through February 2016. June 2015 through February 2016. I move that items 1 through 6 under the finance be added to the legislative meeting agenda for approval.
Second.
Great, thank you, Mr. Nudi. And Mrs. Spade, it doesn't look like we have any other support services.
Nothing under the support service.
Thank you. And before we ask to close the meeting, are there any additional public comments? Our standing room only crowd.
You got your softball money, what do you want?
And I know you know the drill, Mr. Vesely, but let Mr. Nudi read our statement, then you can state your name and address for the record.
I would like to invite any resident, taxpayer, or employee of the North Hills School District who wishes to address the board to come forward at this time. It is our policy to strongly encourage public participation inasmuch as it provides the board with an important source of ideas as well as informs us of many concerns in the district. The board does reserve the right, however, to limit the amount of time allotted for public discussion of any particular speaker and/or issues in the interest of preserving an orderly and effective public meeting. Personnel items must be submitted in writing to the board president for consideration 5 days prior to the board meeting. It is items dealing with Title I and Title VI can be addressed. Some of your concerns can be immediately and quickly addressed following your comments, while others may require more research and discussion. When appropriate, you are welcome to further discuss your concerns with us following the meeting. We appreciate your interest.
It's all yours. You have 30 seconds.
Ed Vesley, 116 Lingay Drive. I just have a question. There's really 2 questions. Maybe, I don't know if you can address this right away. Of the $13.7 million that's still owed to us under the Plan Con process, is that related to a particular construction project or all of them starting way back from the high school? Maybe you could enlighten the public on that. And then of that $13.7 million that's still owed to us, how much have we been paid over the past decade since we started the renovation process? Maybe you could enlighten the public on that too.
Dave?
Well, of the 13.7 that's owed.
Great question.
It goes back through bond issue from 1997, which is the Westview Middle School renovation project. So that bond issue has not run its course yet. So basically what it is the debt service subsidy subsidizes a percentage of your debt service, your principal and interest payments on your bonds. So it's like somebody said, we'll pay a certain percentage of your mortgage every year. So given that the 97 bonds were, must have been 25-year bonds, I believe. They're still outstanding. Then you've got the bonds for the high school and each of the elementary schools. Total bonds that have any subsidy aspect to them outstanding, there's 6 different bond issues. Now, as to how much has been paid in that time frame, I'd have to I'd have to backtrack all the way to 97 and do the calculations.
That's not really necessary. I didn't realize it was a percentage of each year, how much of the bond is still outstanding, they pay some of the principal and interest, basically.
And with each project, as you go through the Plan Con process, Plan Con approval process, a percentage reimbursement for that particular project gets set. And it has to do with a lot of things like how much square footage is in the building, how many kids are in the building, different program spaces, so forth. In general, our debt service is subsidized about 15%. So approximately 15% of our principal and interest payment for bonds for educational facilities gets reimbursed by the state. Is supposed to be reimbursed by the state.
Can I assume this is the first time they've missed this payment to us regarding Plan Con?
Absolutely.
Okay. So that just goes to show you how steady it's been over the last, 15, 20 years. This is the first time that we've not gotten this. All districts, not just us.
Right.
Okay.
I would just like, can I say one
Sure.
thing? Now that we're coming, I guess, towards the end of the school year, there'll be a lot of various committee meetings, probably for budget, facilities request. Could we go back to what we did, that somebody would be there taking notes and then email everybody on the board everything that transpired at those meetings? Because many times, we don't know. If you're not on that committee and you're not at that meeting, you're unaware what was discussed and what may be moving forward on it.
Well, yeah, if there's a board member that, like on the public budget, normally there's a board member there, but there's no guarantee.
Not the public budget, I'm
Right.
talking about if it would be.
Oh, sure, yeah. Or if a board member is present, they can
So it would
update
be
us.
up to them.
That's what I would think, unless we have someone to take the
Yeah,
minutes.
before, there used to be one of the secretaries there
Oh,
would take the
okay.
notes, and then they would forward an email to all the other school board directors. Meeting was held on this, what was discussed.
Yeah,
Yada, yada, yada.
I mean, we could if someone's there to take it,
Yeah.
that's the only thing. Okay,
I don't know why that stopped.
good question, Mr. Nudi.
Dave, no, that $13 million, or $13 million that we were owed on Plan Con, was that the face amount, or is that what's outstanding?
That is the total amount that we would be paid if they made all the payments over the next, through 2029. So
We would
it's
receive-
principal and interest. If they do what they're talking about doing, as best I can understand what they're talking about doing, they're going to issue a bond issue at the state level and give you the principal portion of what they agreed to repay. So they'd give you 15% of the outstanding principal on those bonds, at 15% your reimbursement rate. Now, I'm not real sure what they expect you to do with that, because for the most part, your bonds are not going to be callable. So if they give you this bunch of money, it's like it's going to sit there. You still have to make your full principal and interest payments every year, because the bonds aren't callable. It's not like you can just say to the bondholders, hey, you have to cash those bonds in today. It's an odd concept to me.
Right.
I'm not real sure where they're going with it. I mean, they're taking what they essentially have is a percentage of everybody's individual bonds, and they're gonna replace it with a state level bond. And I'm not real sure why that's going to save them money. Unless they're taking, 15 years worth of payments and stretching them out another 30 years, which may be what they're trying to do. It's like you got 15 years left on your mortgage, and you refinance it with a 30-year mortgage. Your payments become less, but your cost becomes higher.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think we'll adjourn unless anybody else has any comments. Okay, meeting adjourned, thank you.